Good afternoon, grade 12 educators. This afternoon, and any learners if there's learners watching, this afternoon we're going to look at the paper 2 that was written on the 21st of June, right? So we're going to discuss the marking guidelines and look at some of the calculations, although not all of the calculations, right? Before I start with the marking guidelines, let's read the marking principles quickly, right? And some of them I will focus on, others I will just leave. Number 1, penalties for foreign items are applied only if the candidate is not losing marks elsewhere in the question for that item. No foreign item penalty for misplaced item, and no double penalty can be applied. Penalties for placement or poor presentation are applied only if the candidate is earning marks on the figure for that item. That's normally applicable in your creditors reconciliation, right? Full marks for the correct answer. If the answer is incorrect, mark the workings provided. Now let's focus on this one quickly. You start with the final answer. If the final answer is correct, then you give the learner the 3, the 4, the 5 marks, all 5 marks. Because what we've noticed, if the learner only writes the final answer, you give 1 mark instead of say 4 or 5, however many marks is supposed to be allocated. So if it says full marks for the correct answer, number 3, give the full marks to the learner. And if the answer is incorrect, you then go to the workings. If there's part marks to be allocated and other method marks to be allocated, right? If a pre-adjustment figure is shown as a final figure, allocate the part mark for the working for that figure and not the method mark for the answer, right? That's mostly applicable in your income statement. Unless otherwise indicated, the positive or negative effect of any figure must be considered to award the mark. If there's no plus or minus sign or bracket is provided, assume that the figure is positive. So if it's supposed to be minus 5,000, you must give only for minus 5,000. You must look at that as well. Where indicated, part marks may be awarded to differentiate between differing qualities of answers from candidates. Where penalties are applied, the marks for that section of the question cannot be a final negative. So we don't do negative marking in accounting, right? Where method marks are awarded for the operation, the marker must inspect the reasonableness of the answer before awarding the mark. And here we must be careful. We're struggling with the method marks. Either we give the method marks too leniently or we don't give at all. So teachers, be very careful in awarding those marks. And when we say reasonable, we don't mean take a calculator. But if you have a 10, a 0 on top and a 6 at the bottom, then the answer must be something with 4 at the end, right? That would be a reasonable answer. Or you adding up 300,000 plus 500,000. The answer can't now all of a sudden be 10 million now. That's not a reasonable answer. So look at that now. Operation means check operation. 1 part correct means operation and 1 part correct. Note, check operation means it must be a plus, a minus, a times or a divide as per the memo, right? So that's also important. In awarding method marks, ensure that candidates do not get full marks for any item that is incorrect, at least in part. In such cases, do not award the method mark. Indicate by means of a cross in your block or your circle, whichever one you're using. But if the final answer, if it's supposed to be 10 plus 10 is 20, then you can give the 10, 10 and the 20 will get 1 mark. But if the learner now says 10 plus 5, now his answer is 25. You cannot still give 3 marks there. You give him 1 for the 10, another 10, and then he loses the method mark at the end. So he gets out 2 out of a possible 3, right? Be careful with that one also. Be aware that some candidates provide valid alternatives beyond the memorandum. We will talk about this one. In the theory type of questions, you need to read the theory type of question. You need to make sense of the theory type of questions. During moderation, we sometimes pick up that the answer is not even relevant to the question, but you give the 2 marks there, right? Or it is a good answer and then we don't give the marks. So we must really read the answers of the learners to interrogate that answer. So if anyone asks you, why did you give the 2 marks there, you must be able to link it to your answer if it's not the exact answer from the memo. And with the theory type of questions, learners will not always give the exact type of answer that's in the memo. So you must think, how can the learner's answer be linked to the answer according to your marking guide, right? Codes F is for foreign item and P is for placement or presentation. Right, let's start with question number 1 then. The first part of the question, true or false. You can follow with your question paper there. I will project my memo and only my answer book today. Question number 1. Debtors reconciliation and internal control. Indicate whether the following statements are true or false. Choose the answer and write only true or false next to the question number. Bad debts will be recorded in the debtors journal. That's false and 1 mark. The balance in the debtors control account should equal the total of the debtors list. That is correct. That's true. Interest on overdraft form part of bank charges. That is false because interest on overdraft must be shown separately as per the materiality concept. 1.2. Rebecca Traders. Rebecca Traders sells goods for cash and on credit. Study the information provided and answer the questions that follow. 1.2.1. Calculate the correct closing balance of the debtors control account on the 31st of May and prepare the debtors list on the 31st of May 2020. Okay, this part I want to do with you now. Before we look at the marking guide. This is my answer book. Information. Balance of the debtors control account on the 31st of May 2020 was 162,200. In 1.2.1, they ask you to calculate the correct closing balance of the debtors control account on the 31st of May 2020. In 1.2.2, prepare the debtors list on the 31st of May 2020. So that it can be exactly the same amount. Then we can say we've reconciled successfully. Okay, let's do that. Then we're going to read C. The following errors and omissions must be corrected. The total of the debtors control journal was overcast. So over means too much by 4,500. This is in the debtors journal. So the debtors journal is posted to the debtors control account, right? So it will affect my control account. And because it's over, it will be minus 4,500. It will not affect my ledgers, right? B. Stock sold on credit to D. Dlamini was incorrectly posted to the account of B. Brewer 6,400. This 6,400, we did buy the stock. It was sold on credit. It was for Dlamini, but it was posted to the account of B. Brewer. So there's nothing wrong in the control account, but something is wrong in the debtors list, right, or in your debtors ledger. So it's supposed to go to D. Dlamini. So I'm adding to Dlamini 6,400. Stock sold to D. Dlamini was incorrectly posted to the account of B. Brewer. Did B. Brewer buy anything? No. So subtract that amount from B. Brewer. 6,400. He didn't buy anything, right? An invoice issued to C. Conradi for 7,400 was not recorded in the books of Rebecca Traders. Remember, this debtors control and this debtors ledger is our books, right? So, if it says that 7,400 wasn't posted to the books, it means it will affect the control account as well as the debtors list. Okay. So the invoice to C. Conradi, invoice means plus 7,400. I said it wasn't recorded, so it will affect my debtors control account as well as my list for C. Conradi. Right, C. Conradi then bought that goods on credit. And invoice means plus, right? Issued to D. Lamini for 4,500 has been treated as a return. Return means minus, which means a wrong thing happened here, right? This is an error that we have to rectify. Now first, we're going to reduce that first. So what happened here in fact? Let's write here. This is your control account. An invoice supposed to be 4,500 plus here. But what happened instead? It had been treated as a return in his account, which means a minus 4,500 was recorded on his account. Now we have to rectify that error by putting a 4,500. So plus 4,500 minus 4,500, your balance is now 0. And then, that's now first the correction of the error. Then I have to record the actual transaction that took place. So, my adjustment will then be either plus 4,500 and another plus 4,500, which is plus 9,000, or I can show the two separately, right? And who's this? On Lamini's account, right? So I must say plus 9,000 for Lamini, right? Or if you want to say plus 4,500 plus 4,500, that is 100%. Okay. B. Brewer purchased goods for 16,600. No entries have yet been made. B. Brewer purchased goods for 16,600. So plus 16,600. Say no entries have been made. So also on top here, plus 16,600. Correct. That's then it, Brewer. Okay. F. Goods sold on credit to C. Conradi for 8,900 were correctly recorded in the debtors journal. So our control account is correct, but incorrectly posted as 9,800 to C. Conradi's account in the debtors ledger. If you have two amounts, what's the first thing that you have to do? Calculate the difference. Let's do that. 9,800 minus 8,900 gives me 900. Now, this 900 is 900 too much because Conradi only bought for 8,900. His goods sold on credit to C. Conradi for 8,900. How much was actually posted to his account? 9,800. So we have to reduce Conradi's account with 900. Let's do that. Conradi minus 900. Okay. G. A cash sale slip. Cash sale slip for 4,700 was correctly recorded in the cash receipts journal and posted as 4,700 to the credit side of A. Adams. Now, cash sale slip, it's cash. It should not even have gone to the debtors control, right? Or the ledger accounts. But it was posted as 4,700 to the credit side of A. Adams. Credit side means minus, right? Which means we now have to put back that 4,700 because he bought stuff cash, right? And we reduced this account with the 4,700. The credit entry means minus. So we have to put it back. Right, now let's be, without making any magic, we must now add up our control account, add up our ledger, our list, and then it must balance, right? So 162,200 minus 4,500 plus 7,400 plus 16,600, it gives me 181,700, right? Now your list, 45,400 plus 4,700 gives me 50,100. And then brewer, 51,200 minus 6,400 plus 16,600 gives me 61,400. Conradi, 38,000 plus 7,400 minus 900 gives me 44,400. And then Lamini, 10,300 plus 6,400 plus 9,000 gives me 25,700. Right, now you must add up all the amounts quickly. 50,100 plus 61,400 plus 44,500 plus 25,700 gives me 181,700. Easy peasy, right? Let's quickly look at the mark allocation. Okay. (1.2.1), 1 mark for the 162,200, 1 mark for minus 4,500, 1 mark for plus 7,400, 2 marks for plus 16,600, and then 1 part mark. So if any of these answers are correct, you may award the 1 part mark, right? That will give you a total of 6 marks. Then 1.2.2, A. Adams, these totals were given to you, the opening balances, so you're not given any marks. So plus 4,700, a full mark, so it's for accuracy. We're looking for plus 4,700. This is where the plus and the minus signs are very important, and you can only give for plus 4,700. The 50,100 is 1 mark. Brewer, minus 6,400, 1 mark, plus 16,600, 1 mark, and then a part mark is given. So if you have any of these figures, any two, and it's added, then you can give the part mark there, or the method mark there. 38,000 for Conradi, the 7,400 plus 7,400, 1 mark, minus 900 gets 2 marks because it was a calculation, and then the 44,500 is a method mark if he earns 1 mark on that side. Lamini, plus 6,400, the 9,000, 2 marks there, and then the 25,700, 1 method mark. For adding up here, he gets a mark even if the answer is not 100% correct, right? Made a mistake somewhere, but he's picking up a mark, then you can give him the method mark there. Right, let's look at 1.3. Explain 1.3.1. Let's go to my document camera. Okay, you are provided with the debtor's age analysis on the 30th of April, credit terms 30 days, right? Explain how a debtor's age analysis can assist with the internal control over debtors. That's number 1. Calculate the percentage of total debtors exceeding the credit terms. What was the credit terms? 30 days. Explain one problem with figures relating to each of the followings, Jim and Nosy. Remember, when you do your debtor's age analysis, I always tell my kids there's 2 or 3 things that you look at. 2 main things: credit limit and credit terms, right? And then a third one that was later added was a slow payer, so it ties in for me with credit terms, right? But if ever they ask you for 3, you put slow payer there. Those people who, they pay every month, but they don't pay the full amount, they take long to pay, right? Now let's look at it quickly before we go to the memo. We were asked about Jim and Nosy. Now the first thing we look for is credit limit, right? Jim's credit limit is 15,000, but he owes us 18,000. So I can already see that Jim is going to have a problem with his credit limit, right? He owes us 3,000 more than his credit limit, right? Let's look at his credit terms. He's within the credit terms. Look there. 30 days is still acceptable, right? Then let's look at Nosy. Nosy's credit limit is 20,000. The amount owing is 18,500. So the credit that's still available is 1,500. So Nosy is still within a credit limit. So credit limit does not apply to Nosy. Let's look at credit terms. Nosy current month 500, but look here. 7,000 lies 60 days and more. 11,000 lies 90 days. So Nosy's problem is clearly credit terms. She's not sticking to the credit terms because 18,000 of her 18,500 of debt is outstanding for more than 60 days. And the business actually allows them 30 days credit, right? Let's look at your marking guide quickly. Okay. Explain how the debtors age analysis can assist with internal control over debtors. It gives us an indication of debtors whose accounts are overdue. 2 marks for any valid points. 1 mark for incomplete or unclear answers. The analysis will give a clear idea of a reliable debtor. Assist the business to review credit limits allowed to debtors when you want to decide whether you give them more credit or you want to not allow them further credit or to buy more if they don't stick to their credit terms. Assist the business when to refuse additional credit sales until accounts are paid, to see clearly when and to whom interest should be charged, right? And remember, you must be able to link the learner's answer to one of these 5 options, right? Calculate the percentage of debtors exceeding the credit terms. We saw on our analysis, let's just go back again. We saw on our analysis there's a 7,000 that lies for more than 60 days and 11,000 that lies for more than 90 days, right? Okay, so calculate the percentage of total debts exceeding the credit terms. It's then that 7,001 mark, the 11,001 mark, and the total outstanding credit is 45,000. So 18,000 over 45,000. If the learner gives you 18,000, you may award 2 marks for the 18,000, right? Times 100, that will give you 40%, right? So it's your 4 marks there. If the learner work with percentages, then 15.5 will be 2 marks, 24.5 will be 1 mark, and the last one will then be the 40%, that's your method mark, right? Good. 1.3.1. Explain one problem with figures relating to each of the following debtors. Jim, we already looked at it. He's exceeding his credit limit by 3,000 Rand. The credit limit is 15,000. He owes us 18,000, right? So exceeded the credit limit of 15,000 by 3,000. Problem with figures. So credit limit 1 mark and the figure another 1 mark. So you must look for problem and for figures. Or they can say he owes us 18,000, which is more than the credit limit of 15,000. So here we're looking for credit limit and then we're looking for 18,000 and 15,000, right? Nosy. We said Nosy's problem is the credit terms. So credit terms that will get 1 mark. And then the 18,000 exceeds the credit terms. Her balance has been outstanding for 60 days or 90 days. So we can also look for 60 days or 90 days as figures that would be acceptable. That's question number 1. Let's take a short minute break. Welcome back again. Let's look at question number 2 now. Okay, question number 2 deals with fixed assets and calculations, right? Let's read first. You are provided with information from the records of TIQA Limited for the financial year ended the 31st of March. Let's underline that 31st of March, right? Good. Calculate depreciation on vehicles for the year. 2.2. Determine the date of purchase of the Opel vehicle. Calculate the loss on disposal of the laptop on the 30th of November 2019. Why do you disagree with the action taken by Director J. Johnny to buy the laptop without permission? Give 2 reasons to support your answer. Land and buildings were bought 4 years ago for 4 million. Property prices have increased by 25% since then. The directors want to increase the value of this asset to 5 million and reflect a profit of 1 million in the financial statements. Which GAR principle is relevant? As an independent auditor, what advice would you give? Provide 2 points. How are you going to verify that all assets are recorded in the fixed asset register? Easy, right? Physical stock taking. How else will you check them? Right, let's look at 2.1 quickly. Calculate depreciation on the vehicles for the year. Okay. Extract from the balance sheet. There we have our land and buildings. Our vehicles is missing, and here's our extract from the vehicle register, right? So we have 3 vehicles, a Volkswagen, a Toyota, and an Opel, right? Let's see if we have more information. A. Fixed assets. No new vehicles were purchased during the financial year. Depreciation on vehicles must be written off on 20% per annum on cost price. Normally I would say do old, new and disposal. But we did not have any new, we did not have a disposal of vehicles here. So we only have the 3 vehicles that we have to look out for, right? And remember, when we do our depreciation, what must we keep at the back of our minds? The 1 rand rule always. Always we must think of that one. Let's see what we have here. A Volkswagen, 120,000. The purchase price, and remember we said asset depreciation is 20% on the cost price, right? That's our depreciation policy. Depreciation on vehicles must be written off 20% per annum on the cost price, right? So 120,000, accumulated depreciation is already 104,000. We must do the depreciation for 2020. The Toyota is 360,000 and it gives you 174, or accumulated depreciation of 174. The Opel 420, and they've already calculated depreciation for 2020 of 84,000, right? So let's do the calculation. So we have a VW that cost 120,000. The policy is 20% per annum, and we had this car for the whole year, right? So let's do that one first. 120,000 times your 20% times 12 divided by 12, which is not necessary, gives me 24,000. I already see a problem with that 24,000. You know what? Look at this. Our vehicle was 120,000. Accumulated depreciation is 104. Without a calculation, or your calculator, I can already see that there isn't another 20,000 in there. Yet when I do my calculation, I get to 24,000. So how much book value is actually left of this vehicle? Let's see, 120,000 minus 104,000. So the book value of this vehicle is only 16,000. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? 1 rand rule. Yes, let's do it. Okay, which means the book value is 16,000. We can then not use that 24,000, right? So I'm just going to scratch through it. So it's going to be 16,000 minus 1 rand, which will give you 15,999. Right? That's your first one. So I already have 15,999. That's on my VW. Okay. Remember, your opal was given to you at 84,000, right? So 84,000 I also have. They already did. They were so kind. And then the Toyota. Let's do the Toyota. Toyota is 360,000. Right? Times your 20 over your 100 times your 12 over 12. And it gives you 360,000 times your 20%, 72,000, right? 72,000, so 72 I'm going to add. 15,999 plus 84,000 plus 72,000 gives us 171,999. Remember, why did I not use the 24,000? Because if I must use the 24,000, it will put my vehicle into a negative book value and I cannot have that, right? So the 1 rand rule comes into play, which means my vehicle's value, I can only write off 15,999, so I can reflect my vehicle at 1 rand in my books. Okay. All right, that was the first part of it. We will look, we'll do 2.2, 2.3, and then we will look at our marking guide again. Calculate the purchase date of the Opel vehicle. Now, what do we have on the Opel vehicle? We have accumulated depreciation on the 1st of April 2019, 63,000. We have for 2020, 84,000, right? And we have the cost price of 420. So 420 times your 20% times 12 over 12. So 420 times your 20% times 12 divided by 12 gives you 84. Which means that 84,000 that we have already tells me I had the vehicle for more than 12 months in my business, right? So that is 12 months for us there, right? Now, what percentage is this 63,000 of the 84,000? That's now the full year, right? Let's calculate. 63,000 is a portion of a year, right? Now, we don't know how many months. So, 63,000 divided by 84,000 times 12, which tells me it is 9 months, right? So, I had this vehicle for a total of 9 plus 12. 9 plus 12 is 21 months, right? So 9 plus 21 is plus 12 is 21. So I must count back 21 months. Where are we now? On the 31st of March. So the 1st of January 2020 to the 31st of March 2020 is 3 months, right? Remember, I want 21 months back, right? That's 3 months up to this period. Then the 1st of January 2019 to the 31st of December 2019, that's 12 months. So we left with 15 months. 21 minus 15 gives me 6. So in 2018, I must go 6 months back, right? So 31st of December 2018, and then I'm going 6 months back, right? So it's 6 months back. December, November, October, September, August, July. So this vehicle was bought on the 1st of July or the 30th of June, right? That will then be my dates. 1 July 2018 or 30 June 2018. Any of those two dates will be acceptable, and that's how I calculated it, right? You can use a different method, but that's the easiest, the way I can understand how to get back to all my months, right? Maybe you're more clever than me and you don't need such a long calculation to get to those months, right? So here would be 1st of July 2018, and that will then be 6 months for me, right? Okay. Calculate the loss on the disposal of the laptop on the 30th of November 2019. Whenever I do my asset disposal, I always remember my 5 steps. 1, calculate or find the cost price, right? 2, calculate up-to-date depreciation. 3, accumulated depreciation, right? Calculate accumulated depreciation. 4, calculate the selling price. 5, calculate profit or loss. And then I also like to put that on my asset disposal to say 1 would be there, 2 is not shown on my asset disposal because it's my depreciation calculation. 3 is shown on my asset disposal account. 4 is shown, and then 5 can either be on this side or this side depending on my calculation whether I made a profit or a loss. Okay, let's see what we have here. Cost price, let's find the cost price. There's the cost price, 36,000. Let's write it in. 36,000. And what are we selling? Equipment. Or what did we sell? Equipment, right? 36,000. Now I'm looking up to date depreciation. When did I sell this asset? On the 30th of September 2019. Let's just see quickly. Calculate the loss on disposal on 30th of November 2019, but our asset register says the 30th of September 2019, right? So I'll work with that information. 30th of September 2019, so March, so it's the 1st of March or the 30th of March. Let's see when our counting period starts. 31st of March, so it's April, May, June, July, August, September. So it's 6 months, right? Okay, let's do our calculation. What is the policy? On the 30th of September, the laptop was taken. You see there's that 30th of September again. The laptop was taken over by J. Johnny, one of the directors of the company, for his daughter for 3,000 cash. So there we have our selling price, without the permission of the board. The relevant page from the fixed asset register is provided above. No entries have been made. I'm looking for the depreciation policy, right? Or depreciation method. There it is. Depreciation method, 20% per annum on the diminishing balance. Diminishing balance, 36,000 minus that 11,520 times your 20%, right? Times, we counted from the 1st of April to the 30th of September, 6 months, times 6 over 12. Let's do the calculation. 36,000 minus 11,520 times your 20% times 6 divided by 12 gives me 2,448. 2,448. That's an up-to-date depreciation, right? Then step number 3, calculate accumulated depreciation. So that 2,448 would go there, right? Then I would say, or not there, this side, 2,448. Then I would add, let's put this back a little bit. This is a wild discussion. Okay. Then we take our 11,520 plus 2,448 and it gives us 13,968, right? That's the total accumulated depreciation. Accumulated depreciation on the laptop is 13,968. Let's take that to your asset disposal account. 13,968, and that is your 11,520 plus your 2,448, and that's your accumulated depreciation, right? Write it out in full. There might be 1 mark for you there. Or encourage your learners to write it out in full, right? Okay, that's correct. Then our selling price for the computer or the laptop was 3,000 Rand. So that's step number 4, 3,000 Rand. And they told me it was cash, so I'll have bank here. And then my last step will be to balance my account, right? On this side, I have 36,000. If I look so roughly, I have about 16,000 here. So my difference will be here, and the difference is on this side. It is a loss because this amount will go to my profit and loss account on the debit side, right? So let's see what our loss was. 36,000 minus 13,968 minus 3,000, and it gives you a loss of 19,032 rands. Oh, it's a huge loss. Okay. Number 2.4. Why do you disagree with the action taken by Director J. Johnny to buy the laptop without permission? Bear in mind, J. Johnny bought this laptop for 3,000 Rand from the business without permission. Bear in mind that the business made a loss of 19,000 Rand on this laptop. What J. Johnny did was unethical. Give 2 reasons to support your answer. Let's just go back to our marking guide. Okay. 2.1. Let's go to 2.1. Calculate depreciation. I showed you to calculate that 24,000. Most learners will mostly likely get the 24,000 and get only 1 mark for it. But then if they give the 15,999, they get 2 marks. Toyota, 72,000, 2 marks. No part marks or method marks there. Sometimes when the learner don't get the marks, you're inclined to go in and give part marks, but it's clear it's only 72,000. It's 2 marks for the 72,000, 2 marks for 15,999, and only 1 mark for 24,000. 1 mark for the 84,000, and then a method mark for your 171,999. 1 part. So if the learner picks up any mark on the calculation, then he can get the method mark at the end. 2.2, calculate the date of the purchase of the Opel vehicle. I showed you your 63,000 over 84 times 12 gave me my 9 months. Your memo might have a different amount here. Maybe you'd like to correct that quickly. 420 times 20 over 100 times 9 over 12 gives me 63,000. That's basically just a checking type of calculation, but it carries 2 marks. So the 9 carries 2 marks, the 9 months, right? Then 420 times 12, so the 12 months carries 1 mark. However the learner get. If you see 9 months, if you see 12 months, it carries 9 months carries 2 marks, 12 months carries 1 mark, and then the last month is then for the date, right? The last mark. Part mark. So if the learner then calculates, let's say 20 months, and his month comes up to August, then you can give him that method mark, right? So if you give him any mark on the side and his months add up to a different date, then you can give him the method mark. But also remember, you cannot give full marks unless the answer is totally correct. Asset disposal 2.3, equipment 36,000, 1 mark. Accumulated depreciation on equipment, the account will not get a mark, but 11,520 carries 1 mark. 2,448 carries 2 marks because it was a calculation. Check, sometimes the learners like to do the calculation somewhere on the page down there, because there might have been space for them, or the space here is too small for them. Check for that as well. And then it gives them 13,968 a method mark. Bank, 1 mark for bank and 1 mark for the 3,000 Rand. Loss on the disposal of the asset, 19,032. Can you see that's a method mark? So whatever answer they have, if they have different calculations and they come to a different loss, then you may award the mark there. 2.4, why do you disagree with the action taken by the Director J. Johnny? It's unethical to do it. He must ask permission from the Board of Directors. Any 2 reasons, 2 times 2. Must buy it at market value or related price of 22,032 Rands. Also, that answer can be in relation to his calculation in asset disposal above, right? deduct the difference from his director's fees, even open a case against him, because I mean the business is making a loss of 19,032. That's a huge loss for the business, right? Okay, let's move up a little bit. The land and buildings of 4 million that they want to reflect as 5 million, it cannot be done. We record it as its, they say which GAR principle is relevant, historical cost principle. Why? The historical cost principle says the assets must be recorded at their original cost prices, and one day when we sell it, we will then record a profit or a loss. Okay. 2 valid points. Part marks for unclear or incomplete. GAR prescribes the historical or original cost principle when recording assets and only recognizing profits and or losses on the disposal, right? IFRS provides for revaluation of fair value provided that this estimate can be measured reliably. Essentially, financial statements must not be overstated to create a false impression on profitability, because if we have to record that 1 million as a profit, it will look like, wow, things are going very well in this business. There could be tax implications. Yep, SARS will get you on that one. SARS will say you made a profit of 1 million, we will take out 30% of that 1 million, when in actual fact you didn't yet get a profit of 1 million, right? So it's best to record them at their cost prices, and only when you sell the asset will you then record a profit or a loss. How are you going to verify assets that are recorded in the fixed asset register? We will do a physical stock taking of assets, right? That's then question number 2. Let's take a 1-minute break. Okay, welcome back. Let's look at question number 3. Question number 3 deals with inventory valuation, internal control and problem solving. 3.1, give one term. Let's just go to my question paper. Give one term for each of the following description by choosing a term from the list below. Write only the term next to the question number. Here you have a list of options, so we'll choose from this list. The stock system is more suited for low value goods that are purchased in bulk. Stock system, we're talking periodic and perpetual, so the one that we're looking for is periodic inventory. 3.1.2, the method of stock valuation assigns a unique or individual value to each stock. Unique or individual, specific identification, right? This method assumes that stock is sold in order of the date purchase, first in, first out. You are provided with 3.2, you are provided with information related to linen stores. The business sells one type of leather shoes. The financial year ends on 29 February. Let's underline that, 29 February. The business uses the weighted average. Let's underline weighted average method for stock valuation and the periodic inventory system. 3.2.1, calculate the value of the closing stock on 29 February 2020 using the weighted average method. This one is 7 marks. Sometimes it's 9 marks. Know the calculation, or encourage your learners to know the calculation of the weighted average. Calculate the following for the year ended 29 February 2020. Cost of sales, gross profit. Calculate the missing units of stock on 29 February 2020. Calculate the average stock holding period in days on 29 February. And calculate the value of closing stock by using the FIFO method. Okay, let's start. Calculate the value of your closing stock on 29 February using the weighted average method. Remember, your opening stock, rand values above, units below the line, right? That makes it easy for our learners to understand. So I'm looking for opening stock. My opening stock is 320,770 and my units is 520. I always make a point of writing it at the same time so learners can get used to it, seeing it like that, or even arrows pointing to your units below the line. Plus your purchases. Let's find my purchases. There's my purchases in B. Here's my total purchases. You see it's given to you, right? And there is your total number of shoes, right? So plus 1392380, and below the line my units that I bought, right? Now I need more information on returns. Let's see, in C I have returns. 30 pairs of shoes, 30 pairs, that 30 is important for me, so minus 30. Okay. From the February purchases, that's also important because that must help me with my calculation if it's not given to me. Were not of a high quality. These were returned to the supplier, so we don't have them anymore. Hence, I subtracted the 30. The business account was credited with 22,650, including carriage on purchases according to the agreement. So they gave it to me here. Hi, can they make it any easier for me, right? Okay, that's all I have. That's the only information I can work with. No donations or anything. So now I'm going to do my calculation. 320,770 plus 132, 1,392,380. 1329. Okay, I don't think that's all right. 1392380 minus 22,650 gives me 1690500 below my line. 520 plus 1960 minus 30 gives me 2450, and then 1,690,500 divide by 2450 gives me 690, my weighted average price, right? The number of units I have on hand, let's find it quickly, is 325. So 325, so 690 times 325 gives me 225,250 rands, right? Okay, we will look at the mark allocation now. Let's do a few calculations. Calculate the following for the year ended 29 February. Cost of sales. If I think of cost of sales, I think of opening stock plus purchases minus returns plus carriage on purchases, right? Minus your closing stock, right? With that you've done it all up here now, right? So now I'm going to say 1690500. That's my opening plus my purchases minus my returns. Remember, carriage is already in this figure, right? So that is your amount minus your closing stock, which is 224,250 rands, right? So 1690500 minus 224,250, it gives me a cost of sales of 1,466,250, 1,466,250. Then the next calculation, gross profit. How do you get gross profit? Sales minus cost of sales. This is my cost of sales. Now I need to find my sales. Let's see where I can find sales. In D, sales 2,115 pairs. That amount is important. I might need it later. of shoes were sold during the financial year for 2,961,000. The selling price was kept constant at 1,400 per pair, right? So gross profit, my sales is 2,961,000 minus my cost of sales of 1,466,250. Calculation 2,961,111 minus 1,466,250 gives me a gross profit of 1,494,750. Okay, last calculation before we look at our marking guide. Calculate the missing stock. Missing stock, I always say do it in units, it's just easier, right? So, opening stock plus your purchases minus your return, minus your returns, minus your sales, minus your stock on hand gives you your missing items, right? And we're working in units here. So, 520, that's your opening, plus your purchases, 1960, minus your returns is 30, minus your sales, which is 2115, minus your stock on hand, which is 325, should then give me my answer. 520 plus 1960 minus 30 minus 2115 minus 325 gives me 10. 10 is then the number of units missing. Okay. There we go. Let's look at our marking guide quickly. We said 1 mark for periodic inventory, 1 mark for specific identification method, 1 mark for FIFO, first in, first out, and you may give marks for the abbreviations as well. 3.2.1, calculate the value of closing stock on 29 February using the weighted average method. 1 mark for 320,770, 1 mark for 1,392,380, and 1 mark for minus 22,650. 1 mark below your line, 520 plus 1,960 another mark for minus 30. If the learner just gave you 1,690,500, you may give him 3 marks. If he just gives you 2,450, you may give him 3 marks. This is an ideal situation where if you have the final answer, you may award all 7 marks already, right? 690 times the 325 gives you 224,250. One part correct and must multiply with the closing stock. So if the learner's answer is not 690, let's say his answer is 500 rands, and he says 500 times 325, then you may award the method mark for him there. But he must multiply his answer with the closing stock, right? 3.2.2, cost of sales, like I said to you, your opening stock plus your purchases minus your returns. My carriage is now shown separately in this one, gives you 1,690,500. Can you see it's the same 1,690,500 that you have up there, right? Then we subtract our closing stock, which is also the same closing stock value that we have up there, right? And this method, this answer is linked to that answer up there. You can also give him a method mark if he brings his answer from 3.2.1 down to 3.2.2. This one also a method mark here for the answer, his final answer. So you must go back and check what was his answer for 3.2.1 in order to award him the mark. If the two answers are not the same, then you cannot give the learner the method mark here. Operation 1 mark correct, so 3 marks. So here is a good example of where a learner may get 3 marks even if it's not correct, right? because this answer might be wrong, this one might be wrong, and he added the 2 wrong answers, then he gets a mark there as well. Okay. Sales, it must be 2,961,000 because that amount was given to him. The 1,466,250 can be a method mark because it's linked to this answer up here. So whatever the learner's answer is up here must then be the same answer that's here for him to get that method mark there. Then the sales minus the cost of sales will then give him the method mark here. So a learner can possibly get 2 out of 3, and here the learner might even get 3 out of 3 even if his final answer is not fully correct. Calculate the missing units of stock. If the learner gives you 2,450, it's 1 mark. So all 3 of these figures then for 1 marks, right? So you're not going to give separate marks, it must then be all 3 figures for 1 mark, minus 2,115, minus 325, and it will give him 10 marks. 1, 2, 10 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 marks there. Right. 3.2.4, calculate the average stock holding period on days. Our formula, average stock over your cost of sales. Once again, this cost of sales can be a method mark because the answer comes from 3.2.2. So go back and check what is the learner's answer before you award him the method mark. 320,770 was given to him, so it's a full mark. 224,250 comes from 3.2.1, so there can be a method mark for him as well there. The half is knowing the formula, or even divide by 2 can be given a mark. And his final answer is then 67.8 days, or it can even be rounded off to 68 days to give him a part mark, right? Another option on this side, if the learner works with units, then his answer can possibly be 72.9 days, right? Calculate the value of closing stock by using the FIFO method. This one I just want to do again as well. FIFO, we have 325 units on hand. So we have to calculate FIFO. We go to our last batch. But now we have 300 in our last batch. But we were also told in C that 30 pairs of shoes from the purchase on 1 February, there's 1 February, was returned. So minus 30, so 300 minus 30 will give me 270. So 270, where does it come from? It's a 300 minus the 30 times. My cost price was 725, and I know I must also take my carriage into account. So 725 plus 30 will give me 725 plus 30 will give me 755 times 755 times 270 gives me 270 times 755 gives me 203,850, and then to get the remainder I will say 325 minus 270 gives me 55. 55 will then come from my second last batch, which is this batch, and your price is in 710 plus 30, which will give me 740. 710 plus 30 will give me 740 plus 740. So 740 times 55, 740 times 55 gives me 40,700, right? 40,700 plus 203,850 gives me 244,550. Okay. Okay. Go back to our marking guide again. All right. And there you have, for that 270, we have 1 mark there. For the 755, there's no mark there, and then a part mark for the 203,850. So this 270 must then be correct. 55 will then have a method mark because most likely the learners will forget this 30 and put 325 down here. So then at least you can give the learner 25 will then have a method mark, right? 740, there's no mark for the prices, and then 40,700 will then be a mark there, right? One part correct. Total 244,550 will then also be a method mark that most learners will most likely get. 3.3.1, identify one problem in shop 1 and one problem in shop 2. Let's look at the information quickly. Quote figures, in each case state 1 point of advice. Okay. .3.1, identify one problem in shop 1 and one problem in shop 2. Quote figures in each case and give 1 point of advice. Shop 1, shop 2. Sales 220, sales 240. Returns 7,000, returns 48,000. Very high returns, ne? Markup percentage 80%, markup percentage 50%. Stock holding period 190 days, stock holding 30 days. Very high stock holding I can see. Advertising 14,000, advertising 7,200, right? Very low advertising I can see. Rent expense 30,000, 20,000. Days work per week 6, 5. Shop assistance 4, 2, right? But if you look at the sales here, there's more sales here than in this case, right? Okay, let's look at our options and then explain 2 good decisions that Roy has made in respect of shop 3. Quote your figures. What is Roy doing very well with the sales? Returns from customers also very low. Markup percentage 60%. Stock holding 30 days, good. Advertising 48, way more than the other 2. Rent expense 80,000, rent is a bit high. Maybe staying in a good place, we don't know. Days work per week 7, so obviously that's a good decision. Shop assistance 6, that's also maybe a good decision that we can look at. Let's go back to our marking guide. There we go. Identify one problem in shop 1 and one problem in shop 2. Shop 1, stock holding period 190 days, too much of money invested in stock, right? The stock can also get outdated because it's a very long period. Markup percentage of 80% is too high, which could lead to the low sales of 220. They say do not accept advertising, right? Advise purchase stock in smaller quantities, more marketing, decrease the markup percentage to increase the sales. Shop 2, the returns are very high. It's 48,000, which is 20% of the sales. Advertising is too low. It's 7,200, which is 3% of sales. They open for 5 days only, a low markup of 50% and not able to increase sales. Appoint more sales assistants, at least 4, because at the moment they only have 2. Advise, sell correct or good quality items to customers to avoid returns. Review the returns policy. Increase advertising to increase sales. Open another day will increase the sales. So 1 for the problem, 1 for the figure, and 1 for the advice, right? 3.3.2, explain 2 good decisions that Roy has made in respect of shop number 3. And remember, when you read these type of questions, the learner's answer you must be able to link it to one of the options that's given to you, okay? good returns by customers, 9,600, which is 1% of sales. Could be because of good quality goods and or good customer service. They're working 7 days a week. Advertise more, 48,000 rands, 5% of sales. The rent expense indicates shop is in a good area, resulting in high sales. Remember, the rent expense was 80,000, way more than the other two. Employing 6 shop assistants can also help because Roy is making sales of 960,000. So shop number 3 is doing really well. That's 40 marks. Let's take a minute break again. Welcome back. Let's tackle now question number 4 and our last question this afternoon. Question number 4 deals with manufacturing. 4.1. Mokis Mokwatsi is the owner of Mokis Manufacturer, a business that manufactures tracksuits. The financial year ends on 29 February 2020. 4.1.1. Refer to information C and calculate the direct labor cost. 4.1.2. Refer to information D. Prepare the correct note for factory overhead cost. 4.1.3. Prepare the production cost statement for the year ended 29 February 2020. Information. As I read my information, I like to place my figures, right? So I'm going to read and then go and put my figures where I need it, right? I always tell the learners also and teachers, you can also encourage them to do that, especially with the manufacturing questions and all other questions. Read your information and place it. Read it maybe once, the full question, and then you go back and you read A and you can put A where you need the information. Like I said, especially with manufacturing, it will avoid that up and down and wasting of time in trying to find the information, right? So A, I have stock balances. 29 February 2020 is my end. And 1 March 2019 is my start, right? Work in progress stock, these two amounts must go to my production cost statement, right? And I always say, if you're given both of these amounts, then I know my final figure for my production cost statement I will have to calculate. But if one of these figures are missing, then we are given your final figures on your production cost statement, right? Let's go to the production cost statement quickly. If we are given both work in progress at the beginning and work in progress at the end, then cost of production of finished goods must be calculated. If we are only given one work in progress and we have to calculate the other amount, then this cost of production, the final figure will then be given to you, right? That's just a little tip. Okay, so at the beginning must be added 55,600 and 92,150 will be subtracted. And this is work in progress at the start and this is work in progress at the end. You see, by reading my information and placing it immediately where I need it, I'm picking up marks as I go along. And I don't do this up and down method, right? But you as teachers must also do it in class so that learners can get used to it. Because when you tell them, it's a bit confusing for them. But if you as a teacher do it in class all the time, they will get used to that method of doing it, right? Then I have my indirect material. That goes to my factory overheads. My opening will be added. My closing will be subtracted. Let's find that one. There's my indirect. Opening has already been put there, so closing I'm going to put it here towards the end, right? Minus 2,200. See, I'm picking up as I go along. I'm done with A. B. Raw material issued to the factory for production, 755,000. That's already the raw material issued. Normally you have to calculate it. But if they say the raw material issued, that's already the material that we used during the year, and that amount is supposed to go to your production cost statement, right? That's your final answer if you were given a calculation for raw materials. Raw material issued, so that 755,000 must go to my production cost statement. Direct material cost 755,000. Can you see it's already printed there for me? Okay. So I'm done with B. I don't have to go back to it again. C. 5 workers and information 4.1.1 says refer to C and calculate the direct labor cost. So here's a calculation coming for us. I always like to say, as you read your information, you write it down. So my first bit of information is 5 workers I employed in production. They each work. There's my second bit of information, 1,860 hours normal time per year at 90 rands per hour. That's my third bit of information. I'm going to stop there now first. So 5 workers working 1,860 hours at 90 rands per hour. That's my first calculation. That's my normal time calculation. So it's 5 workers times 1,860 times 90 gives me 837. Okay. In December 2019, each worker received a bonus of 15% of his annual earnings, right? So you can now work out how much each worker earns for the year and then take 15% of that, or you can take the amount that they've earned for the year, all of them, and calculate 15% of that amount. Okay? So 837,000 times your 15% gives us 125,550. There's no other information here. So that's all I have to work with. Right? 125,550 plus 837,000 plus 125,550 gives me 962,550. That 962,550 must go to my production cost statement. So I'm taking it there, 962,550, and that's my direct labor, right? And we know direct material plus direct labor gives me my primary cost, right? So I can add the two, 962,550 plus 755,000 gives me 1,717,550. 1,717,550. Can you see how I'm building my production cost statement, right? If I must run out of time now, at least I will have 4 or 5 out of the 8 marks that I can possibly get here. Okay. I'm done with C now. D. The bookkeeper presented the following factory overhead cost calculations. Sundry expenses, 24,924. Indirect materials purchase, 41,300, right? Let's see if we can start taking this information as I'm reading it. Indirect material purchase, we know, goes to factory overhead, so it must be plus 41,300, right? Sundry expense, there it's already printed for me, right? Don't tell learners not to forget to add this figure at the end here, right? Okay. Water and electricity, let's write it in. water and electricity, open my brackets because I must read my adjustments to see what they say about these figures, right? Then I have rent expense 125, rent expense 125,000, salary of the foreman, so foreman 97,150. Then I have insurance 18,850. And then I have advertising, but don't let them fool. Can you see there's even a line for advertising there? But advertising is not a factory expense. Advertising goes to selling and distribution. Be careful with that advertising and telephone. They put those things there to confuse you. And if you put it there, they even say -1. So don't let them confuse you. Teachers, warn your learners about these things. Okay. Now we're going to read the adjustments. The following errors were noticed. 60% of the water and electricity account was allocated to the factory, whereas it should have been 80%. So this amount that we have is 60. What do we want? 80. So divide by what you have times what you want. Okay. So divide by what you have times what you want. Okay, water and electricity 40,000 and 40020. Divide by 60 times 80, and my final answer is 53,360. I did not see any other information, or let me first read everything before we conclude that, right? So I'm done with that one. The amount for rent expense is the total amount paid. Rent should be divided between the factory, that's our worry, we only worry about factory, sales and administration sections in the ratio 5 to 2 to 1. If you get a ratio, what's the first thing that we have to do? 5 plus 2 plus 1, right? The factory will get 5 over 8. Okay, let's do that calculation. 125 times 5 divided by 8. 125,000 times 5 divided by 8 gives us 78,125. Okay. The factory foreman was on paid leave in February 2020. His salary for February was not recorded. So the salary we have, that 97, is only for 11 months up to the end of January. The factory foreman received a 900 Rand monthly increase in his salary with effect, just get into picture, with effect from the 1st of January. So 1st of January, he had a 900 Rands increase. February, we did not pay him. We have to add February. So, there's a problem here. If it wasn't for that 900 Rands, we could just say 97,150 divide by 11 times 12, and that will give you your answer, right? But now, because of that 900, that's making things complicated. So what are we going to do? We're going to subtract the 900, right? Let's do that calculation up here. There's a space for us to write. 97,150 minus 900, right? So 97,150 minus 900 gives me 96,250. Then I can say divide by 11, right? Divide by 11 gives me 8,750. Don't forget to add back the 900 of the increase plus 900 of the increase, which gives me 9,650, right? So, I'm going to make this a plus, cancel this, and then say plus 9650. Okay. So factory formula 97,150 plus 9,650. 97150 plus 9650, and it gives me 106,800. Okay. Last one, the amount for insurance is the total amount paid. This includes a premium for March 2013. Now we're dealing with 13 months, right? Only 85% of this expense must be allocated to the factory. There was no increase in monthly premiums. So this one we can say divide by the 13 times 12 and then get your 85% of that, right? So let's do that. Let's write here again. 18,850 divided by 13. So we can get for 1 month, right? 18,850 divided by 13 gives us 1,450. Now I'm going to say minus 1,450 times 85%, right? So 18,850 minus 1,450 gives you 17,400 times your 85%. Gives us 14,790. Now we didn't get any information on this indirect material. So it's safe to say there's no adjustment and we can deal with it. It's all part of the factory expense, right? So we say 1,900 plus 41,300 minus 2,200, which will give me 41,000. And then I can add up all my factory overhead expenses, right? Don't forget about the 24,925 plus the 41,000 plus 53,360 plus 78,125 plus 106,800 plus 14,790, and it gives me 319,000. Okay, that 319,000 must now go to my production cost statement. 319,000, and that is my factory overheads. And then primary cost plus factory overheads gives me total cost of production, okay? So now I must add 1,717,550 plus 319,000 gives me 2,036,550. Okay, now what's missing? All we have to do is finalize our production cost statement, right? Let's do that. 2,036,550 plus your 55,600 gives me 2,092,150 minus my work in progress at the end of the year, 92,150 gives me 2 million. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Great. There's your production cost statement. Let's go back to our marking guide again quickly. Okay. 4.1.1, calculate the direct labor cost, normal time. Your 1,860 times 90 times 5 gives me 837. The 1,860 carries a mark, the 90 carries a mark, and the 5 carries a mark. Take note, the 837 doesn't have a mark. Then the bonus, 15% of the 837 gives you 125,550. It can also be 15% of the figure above. So if the learner's answer was, say, for example, 900,000 and then he calculates 15% of that, then you may award him the method mark, right? Then 837,000 plus the bonus will give you 962,550. Then there's a method mark there as well. There's also the alternative way of doing it. 5 times 167,400 plus 25,110, that's your bonus, gives you 962,550. 1 mark for the 5, 2 for 167,400, and 1 mark for the 25,110, and then your final mark then for 962,500, if the learner gives that option. Factory overhead cost. 1 mark for 41,300, 1 mark for minus 2,200, and the 41,000 is then a full mark, it's not the method mark, because all the figures were given to you, all the learner had to do was put it in the right order. Water and electricity, 40,020 carries 1 mark, the 61 mark and the 81 mark. Gives you a method mark of 53,360. Rent expense, 2 full marks. Take note of that one. Not the 125 one and a 5/8 2 full marks for 78,125. The salary of the foreman, the 97,150 carries 1 mark. Your 9,650 can be 2 marks, or the learner can say 8,750 plus the 900 can also be 2 marks. And then your final answer, a method mark there as well. Insurance, 18,850 carries 1 mark, 1,450 carries 1 mark, the 85% carries 1 mark, and then your final answer, 14,791 mark. The final answer, 319,000, is a method mark. It says operation 1 part correct. So if he picks up 1 mark above, then you can give him that final answer. If he puts advertising there, you say minus 1 mark because it's a foreign item. Nice 18 marks for the learners. Production cost statement 4.1.3, direct labor 962,550. So you'll give the mark, the method mark, according to the learner's answer. Primary costs will be based on the learner's answer and adding your direct material cost. Factory overhead, you also have to go back to the note to see what's the learner's answer to be able to award him this method mark here. Work in progress at the beginning, a full mark because it was given to him. Total production costs, a method mark for the operation of the learner. Work in progress at the end, 92,150, a full mark here. And then cost of production of finished goods, a method mark here, right, for his answer. 4.2, Susie's shop. Let's go back to our question paper quickly. Susie Simanga owns a small business that produces pies and donuts. Quote figures, unit costs or financial indicators to support your opinions where comments or explanations are required below. Identify 1 variable cost with figures for donuts and 1 variable cost with figures for pies that were major problems in 2020. Considering that the inflation rate was 6%, also identify 1 fixed cost with figures for pies. For each unit cost identified, give a possible solution to rectify it. 4.2.2, Susie is concerned about the financial performance of a business and the fact that a new competitor has opened in the area. Name the product which has been negatively affected by the new competitor. Comment on how this would have been affected, this would have affected the net profit on this product. I always tell learners that for these type of questions, you don't look for the answers up there or somewhere. You must find the answers here within the calculation, right? Total donuts, pies, total units produced and sold, 55,000, 51,000. In 2020, we had pies 35,000 sold. The previous year was 45,000. There could be a possible problem. Break even, 21,667. So we're definitely selling more than the break even. The previous year it was 24,000, also more than the break even. The next year, look at our break even. The pies, 36,400. We're making a loss on our pies here. The previous year, we had 18,200 break even, and we sold almost double that amount, or more than double that amount. Variable cost per unit, the direct material, donuts, R1.95. The previous year, R2.05, actually went down. Direct labor cost per unit, R1.45, R2.20, it went up. Selling and distribution costs per unit, 80 and 85 cents. Fixed cost, factory overhead cost per unit, 78 the previous, 67. Administration cost, 49.51. Susie's selling price per unit, R7, R8 now. The selling price of the competitor, R8.50. So let's look at the pies. Direct material cost, R2.20, R4.60. Went up a lot, almost double, more than double. Direct labor cost per unit, R2.60, R2.65. Selling and distribution costs, R1 and R1.05 stayed the same. Factory overhead cost per unit, R2.50. Although it stayed the same, our pies that we sold was actually less there. Factory overhead cost per unit, R2.50, and it's now R3.40. Administration, R1.14, and then it's R1.17. Selling price per unit, R10.80, R12.40. The price of the competitor also R12.40, exactly the same as ours. Okay. There we go. Let's see what our solution says. 4.2.1. Identify one variable cost with figures for donuts and one variable cost with figures for pies that were major concerns in 2020. Direct labor increased from R1.45 to R2.20. That's by 75 cents or by 52%. You must identify the cost, so 1 mark for direct labor and 1 mark for the figure and 1 mark for the solution. Assess the efficiency of the workers, offer incentives, time and motion studies, restrict overtime, train workers to be more efficient or improve supervision. Pies, a problem was direct material cost, increased from R2.20 to R4.60. That's by R2.40, an increase by R2.40 or by 109%. Right? So 1 mark for direct material, 1 mark for the figure. Advice, investigate the causes of wastage, look for cheaper local supplier, better quality of raw materials, better training, improve security and supervision. Pies, fixed costs, factory overhead costs increased from R2.50 to R3.40, that's by 90 cents or by 36%. Solution, increase units produced to reduce unit costs, scale of economies, more you produce, cheaper it becomes. Advertise the product better, diversify the range, economize on expenses, example, rent, water and electricity. Once again, what's important, you must be able to link the learner's answer with the marking guideline. 4.2.2. Name the product which has been negatively affected by the new competitor. Pies, it can only be pies. Comment on how this would have affected the net profit of the product. Any 2 comments, 2 marks. Production and sales decreased from 45,000 to 35,000 units. That's 10,000 units less or 22% less. The break-even point increase from 18,200 to 36,400 or by 18,200 units, which is a 100% increase. This means that a loss will be made on the pies, and she sells it a pie for R12.50 or R12.40. Susie has a limit to a price Susie has to limit her price to 12 Rand and 40, the same as her competitor. Right. That then brings us to the end of our memo discussion this afternoon. Good luck with your marking. Thank you very much.